These 2 chapters of Taizai prove to me why I love this manga series so much. As we know, last week, a bunch of people, majority of us, were pretty upset with how Hawk came back. And which is understandable. A lot of us were either, ugh, I hate this chapter so much, or let's just roll with it. That's how majority of us were. Well, in these 2 chapters this week of Taizai, it sheds some light on Hawk. And honestly, it's very subtle, the way it's done. Like, it's not obvious. You will not notice it unless you really look at the certain individual signs in these 2 chapters of Taizai. And right now, with what I am seeing with these 2 chapters, this lays down the very foundation of the upcoming arc. These 2 chapters foreshadow, hint, and lay down the foundation of what we should expect from this upcoming arc. I am going to be talking about a lot, because there is going to be a lot of theory crafting going on in this review. So, to start off, I want to talk about something first. I want to talk about Hawk. That was the biggest debate last week. A bunch of people were pretty much either complaining about it, or they were just rolling with it, waiting for an explanation. Well, we got a little bit of an explanation in these 2 chapters. We really did. We don't have the full grasp and information, but I'm starting to see where it goes, and there's a lot of hints about Merlin and Hawk. So, first things off the bat, I want to talk about some certain little individual signs that happened in this chapter that I noticed. For one thing, in the second chapter, like the second chapter that came out, like 102, you will see where little Gil comes inside of the boar's hat. When he comes inside the boar's hat, you have it to where Hawk doesn't recognize Gil. Doesn't recognize him whatsoever. He's like, I think I knew that person a long time ago. That's what Hawk says. And then Gil says to him, like, I'm very sorry for what I did in the forest to you. I'm sorry that I hit you and hurt you and all that. And then you have it to where Hawk doesn't even recognize or remember who the forest is, like where the forest was. So, we're finding out that Hawk has memory loss. He has memory loss. The question is, how far does his memory loss go? Because he knows who Merlin is, obviously. He knows who Elizabeth is. He knows who Meliodas is, Bon is. He knows pretty much majority of the sins, as we've seen from these 2 chapters. And so, why can't he remember Gil? Now, it's not the question of he hasn't seen Gil in such a long time. He's seen Gil quite a few times after that part with the forest. He's seen Gil, I think, somewhere in this arc, actually. You'd think Hawk would remember. So, why can't Hawk remember Gil? That right there is very, very, very strange, because we don't know what extent of memories Hawk has lost. Another thing that pops up with this chapter that has a correlation with chapter 98.5 that was released a couple weeks back, there is like a dialogue piece in this chapter, chapter 102, that states like Hawk thinks he used to know that name of Gil. And in chapter 98.5, you see it to where when Meliodas meets Hawk for the first time and talks to him, you see it to where he says, like, I think I used to actually fly a long time ago. That's what Hawk says. And that instantly made us hint and think about the parrot that Meliodas used to have, and it hinted at reincarnation with Hawk. Well, with this chapter, once again, those hints of reincarnation pop up, and it seems like Hawk has lost his memories. You'd think when he got reincarnated, he'd be reincarnated into something different, like how he went probably from a parrot to a pig. You'd think he would go from a pig to, like, maybe a hawk or something. You don't know. But, pretty much, it seems like there's something else going on with Hawk. A lot of mystery around it, and this leads into my other theories about Hawk. Now, the theory I'm about to discuss is from a fellow Chibi that mentioned it a couple weeks back, and I want to discuss it now. Someone stated that there is a deep connection between Hawk and Merlin. There is definitely a connection there, because let's look at this at a different angle. Merlin is the boar's sin of gluttony. Now, what is Hawk? A boar, or a pig, but you could consider him a boar. In this chapter, Merlin specifically states to Hawk, like, we're fellow boars, we should get along, and she gives a very suspicious type smile. You also gotta look at the aspects of how Meliodas pointed out this suspicious smile that Merlin has, and has always had, and you don't understand what she is thinking. And this leads me to believe that maybe Hawk and Merlin are connected. There's a lot of signs here, okay? I mean, the real reason why, as I said last week, there's definitely a deep connection between Merlin and Gowther. There's definitely a connection there, because of the armor ordeal. There's definitely a past. And with this chapter, we're getting more and more hints with Gowther and Merlin's connection, along with Hawk's connection to Gowther and Merlin. There's definitely a massive connection right now. Now, let's get into these themes and actually talk about it. So, as I stated last week, I said that Gowther most likely could be a homunculi. Chibi and all that theorized this, and I said Gowther could be a homunculi made by Merlin. Now, if this is true, this theory proves true, okay, which is kind of possible, because I have a lot of theories, actually, that I can bring up, but from these 2 chapters that pop up some interesting information, that means it would be possible for Merlin to make someone like Hawk to be reincarnated, because they're very related when it comes to being both boars. The sin of gluttony, the boar sin of gluttony. Another question is like the entire way she was very suspicious, like and the way she wasn't caring at all when Hawk was resurrected last 2 chapters ago, since we got 2 chapters this week. She didn't seem suspicious at all, like she didn't even care that Hawk came back to life. She seemed like she already knew. So, this right here at least the connection that makes me think that maybe Merlin made Hawk. Okay. Now, let's go into the Gowther-Merlin moment. We see Merlin have a smile. A smile in this chapter. And he's going after Gira, as it seems. He's trying to kiss Gira at the end of chapter 102. So, when you see a smile from a character that has not showed any emotions, barely any emotions since he was introduced, and shows a smile in this chapter, an evil, wicked smile, danger. Danger. Danger, 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 get the fuck away, danger. Gowther is definitely dangerous, and I want to explain why. Chibi mentioned this, and I actually want to bring it up. I take no credit whatsoever for this theory. Chibi mentioned stating that since Merlin talked to Gowther last chapter about the armor, okay? Since Merlin says, like, oh, I need to make you new armor, we do know that Gowther has always showed emotions for his armor. He cares for his armor. There's definitely a connection. But someone brought up and stated that maybe the reason why Gowther, ever since he was first introduced a long time ago in the beginning chapters with full armor on, was because he needs that armor. Because he is called the Sin of Lust. And to speak of it, we have never really seen Gowther actually be lusty at all. Let's be truthfully honest here. We have never seen Gowther lusty. Like, he's never lusted after anyone until this chapter. And it's very strange. Very, 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 very strange. Why we have never seen Gowther do this. Why does he always seem like he has no emotions? This dude that has no emotions is called the Sin of Lust. I mean, yes, he looks like a tramp, but the point of it is you'd still think the Sin of Lust would be more lusty or something. But I think I know why, and Chibi mentioned it. The armor that Merlin made for Gowther probably suppressed his emotions, probably stopped Gowther from revealing his darkest and deepest desires, his emotions, his dark emotions that he has. It probably suppressed his sin of lust. That's probably what the armor does to Gowther, and that's why he needs it. And that explains with the correlation of why Gowther has been slowly starting to show emotions as it progresses through this last arc we had. And this explains with this entire chapter. Gowther's showing emotions because he can't really control his emotions. And the only reason why he needs that armor is because it needs to suppress his emotions. And this also shows more connection with Merlin and Gowther being a homunculi and stuff like that. So, past that bit, let's move on to something else. If you don't understand the reoccurring theory I'm getting at, I'm about to let you know. The way these 2 chapters are setting up, it's setting up Merlin and Gowther as the villains of this upcoming arc. The next antagonist. It's definitely setting them up. The reason why, there's a lot of hints in these 2 chapters that hint at Merlin and Gowther, and maybe even Hawk turning into the villains. Okay. In this chapter, you see Diane and King have a moment. And at first looking at this chapter, you look at it's a very cute and kawaii moment because Diane has shrunk down. She got this medicine from Merlin to be able to shrink down for 7 hours to be like an average girl. And then you see it to where King is trying to be respectful and it's like, oh, you should go tell Captain and all that you want to go to the festival with him. But Diane doesn't say that. She was completely out of character. She wants to go with King to the festival. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That is out of character for Diane. That is straight out of character. That's completely out of character for her. Because we know for a fact, the first thing she would do would go to the captain. She would definitely go to the captain to try to ask him to go to the festival if she was shrunk down. And we've seen this entire aspect even in the earlier chapters of the Seven Deadly Sins. She wanted to be small like Elizabeth to be able to spend time with the captain like a normal girl. And so this clearly shows us that there's something else going on here. And this leads into my theory. What did Diane take? Medicine. Now, who is this medicine from? Merlin. Now, let's go back to last chapter, or 2 chapters ago. Merlin stated that she used demon magic or demon-like medicine or whatever to heal the king from his illness. Now, let's look at this chapter. Merlin makes medicine for Diane to use to shrink down. Now, let's look back at past prior history when it comes to medicine, when it comes to the Seven Deadly Sins. What medicine has been the main prime central focus of the Seven Deadly Sins in this past arc? The new generation Holy Knots, getting experimented on by Hendrickson, getting turned into demonic beasts. This medicine, we already know Gowther used demonic magic or medicine on the king. What's to say that this medicine that Diane has is not some form of demonic blood or energy or whatever it is? So, this leads into another theory. Diane's actual aspect and personality is getting tampered with. Merlin is messing with Diane's personality. She is not looking at Meliodas. She wants to go with King. Why would Merlin do this? There's a lot of reasons. In this chapter, specifically at the final page, final panel of chapter 102, you see where the mangaka writes down the seeds of the sins splitting up is starting to form. Like, there's cracks between the friendship. And you see that going on through the entirety of these 2 chapters. Bond announces he's leaving the Seven Deadly Sins, which I kind of expected a little bit after the events of what unfolded with Meliodas and Bond. It's kind of understandable, but Bond is going to be splitting up from the Seven Deadly Sins. He's quitting. King and Diane having something very mysterious going on there because of the entire aspect that Diane's personality is definitely different. Now, Gilthunder, he's going off on a pilgrimage. He's going on a pilgrimage to go atone for his sins of what he has done. He is splitting up too. Now, another thing. Gowther. Gowther is messing with Jericho and Gira in this chapter. On the final page, you see it to where Gowther is trying to kiss Gira. So right there, major mysteries and evil antagonist flags. Another thing, Merlin seems to be very happy and smiley this entire chapter. The entire aspect of something that was introduced in this chapter, I don't know if it's been mentioned before, I could have forgotten, but I highly doubt it. I've never heard of it before. But the Eternal Coffin of Darkness, that's what I think the name of this coffin that was introduced in this chapter that Merlin and Meliodas were discussing. And when something is called the Eternal Coffin of Darkness, that's not fucking good. That is definitely something very bad. Merlin was hunting down this Eternal Coffin of Darkness and it was gone. She couldn't find it. Okay? The thing is, Meliodas knows about it. And there's definitely something major with that for them to bring that up in these 2 chapters. For the manga to write that in, that's definitely something major. And it goes along with another thing I have. As we know, the mystery behind that Goddess Clan altar thing that Bond talked to a while back, like 15 to 20 chapters ago. That mysterious altar Bond talked to. What's to say that altar Bond talked to wasn't the Eternal Coffin of Darkness? What if Merlin had it planned all along that she wanted Bond to get an argument with Meliodas and split up? Now, let's go into something else I want to discuss. One more thing. The King. Now, I don't take any credit whatsoever for this theory. Achievement mentioned it last week, and it blew my fucking mind. It absolutely blew my mind away when I saw the theory Achievement mentioned. After the aspects of what I said about this chapter, about Merlin and Gowther and Hawk seeming very suspicious. Now, not necessarily Hawk, but I mean, he's definitely connected to Merlin, and Gowther's, yeah. After this chapter, looking at this chapter, the suspicions and the fury that Achievement mentioned last week is starting to be proven true. And it's actually fucking scary. Let's get into this fury. Okay, as we know, the king of the entire kingdom was healed through some form of demon magic or demon medicine by Merlin. Now, let's say my theories and other Chibi's theories of Gowther being homunculi is true. Let's say Hawk was created by Merlin. That would showcase that Merlin can make life. We also know Merlin is a very powerful mage, can create illusions. She knows how to create illusions. Look what she did for King Arthur, made a giant-ass army with illusions. The power of Merlin is insane. We have seen and demonstrated her power slightly, but she is incredibly powerful. Now, what's to say that the king isn't an illusion? An elaborate illusion from Merlin to infiltrate the kingdom, take over the throne, and start chaos. Who's to say that that king that is currently there and was supposedly brought back by Merlin is actually the king we know? Who's to say that's not a wolf in sheep's clothing? Or, what if Merlin, since she was using some newfound medicine with Diane, gives some form of medicine to the king that had demonic blood in it, and that king is no longer the king we know, and it could possibly be like a demon? It's a possibility. It's straight out possibility that the king could possibly be a demon, could be an illusion, could not even be the king we know, could be a homunculi that was created by Merlin. It's a possibility that Merlin purposely did that to infiltrate the kingdom and to make the king hers. For instance, Merlin, an aspect, if she was evil, that would be the perfect opportunity to take over the entire kingdom, to manipulate the king behind the scenes. So right there, interesting theories. Like I said, the way the foundation of these two chapters were, it's laying the groundwork for Merlin and Gowther being the villains. That's exactly what it is. Now, there's a couple other things that happen in this chapter. You have a lot of romance going on in these two chapters. Romance between Diane and King, romance between Elizabeth, Meliodas, romance between Jericho, Bond, romance between Gerda and Gowther, and then you see a little bit of connection with Hawk and Merlin. There's just a lot of connection going on in this chapter. A lot of romance going on, too, and maybe the reason why there's just so much romance could be hinting at just slight hinting foreshadowing at maybe Gowther, since he is the sin of lust. Possibility. But anyways, there's one other couple details I do want to talk about. We find out that the demon that supposedly was watching over Margaret and messing with Gilfunder's entire life and why he had to hurt so many people, flew off into the east. This demonic creature flew off into the east. Okay. Most likely I'm going to take a guess and say that Gilfunder's probably going to hunt that creature down and probably try to kill it. I'm going to say that right now. Another thing is, there was a lot of, like, throwbacks to earlier chapters of the Seven Deadly Sins, like the entire drinking scene with Gilfunder and Meliodas. That alcohol that Gilfunder and Meliodas drunk was the actual alcohol from the town, from the first arc, that Gilfunder said was very nasty. And he clogged the freaking water, remember, with his sword. That was an amazing, amazing correlation to that previous arc a long time ago. That was just major. That was a great way to end the overall meetup with Gilfunder and Meliodas. So, I'm going to end this chapter review here. There's a lot more I can discuss, but I'll leave it up to you, Chibi, to discuss it. You have a wonderful day or not, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.